Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. There is a lot of information to go over in this morning's video, but the first thing we will speak on is today's weather. We'll talk about current conditions, the latest outlooks, then we'll break down the country section by section, a couple areas that we will zoom into that has a higher risk of severe weather for today, like the southeast, the high plains, and places like that. After we get done talking about today's weather, we'll begin to discuss tomorrow's severe weather event. For your Thursday across areas of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region, we have an enhanced risk up, so we'll speak on that. And then we'll talk about Friday's severe weather threat. This could change a little bit. We could go up another category, but we'll speak on what we know. We're not quite in range of short-range model guidance, things like that. We'll talk about the ingredients, where I think we have the highest chance to actually see strong to severe storms in this risk area, and we'll speak on all of that. And we will speak a little bit on Saturday also, because we could have a risk of severe weather for Saturday. But as we get into Sunday into Monday, a new system enters the western U.S. into the central portion of the country. This will spark severe weather across the southern plains, and this has all the makings of one of your classic May severe weather events across the south central U.S. So we'll speak on that. We're going to get very detailed in this video. If you're only, interested in certain areas of the country or certain time frames, timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. Just take advantage of them, jump ahead. My videos can be very long. I don't know how people cover all this information in 10 minutes. I tend to just get very detailed, and that's just the best way that I flow. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So this is current conditions right now. That storm system that's going to spark a multi-day severe weather event across areas of the country has already made its way on land. So we already have this spin right here across Montana, a big surge of moisture in the western Dakotas. We'll have more severe weather that evolves a little bit further east in the Dakotas into Nebraska also later on this afternoon. We will talk about that here in a second. But we do got some moisture out west, and then we got a little bit of moisture surging across areas of the southeast in the form of some storms. More so just heavy rain, but if you're waking up to some rain in Atlanta points north, the Greenville-Spartanburg area, it's definitely showing up on radar here. Surge of rain moving into areas of like the New Jersey shore up into New York City, a little bit of rain into southern New England. We have a little bit of rain into Indiana. It looks like a lot, actually, some heavy rainfall, and lower Michigan. So pieces of energy all over the place across the U.S. This morning, and that'll be the case over the next several days. As far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today, we have a marginal risk across areas of the Carolinas, eastern Tennessee, northern Georgia, all the way up into Virginia and the Tidewater, and areas of Delaware. So a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather here for some gusty winds, maybe some hail. And then we have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather up here for portions of the Dakotas, very small section of southwest Minnesota, northwest Iowa, and extends all the way into the heart of Nebraska. So we'll zoom into this area for you folks really quick here. Level 2 out of 5 risk in the yellow, level 1 out of 5, the marginal risk in the dark green. There is a 2% risk of a tornado. I could see this increasing, especially into Nebraska, but as of right now, the time I'm making this video, just before 7 a.m. Eastern time, a 2% risk of a tornado in the green here. Now, wind threat in the yellow, which pretty much includes the entire slight risk area, a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in any given location. The hail threats, more so for the southern section of this severe weather threat area, so Sioux Falls down into Sioux City. We do have a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, but if you zoom into this area, into really Nebraska, North Platte, Grand Island, Columbus, all the way down to McCook, we do have a 10% risk also of significant sized hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. So let's see if we get an uptrend with this today. I could see an enhanced risk issued, an upgrade from a slight risk. That would show up in orange, level 3 out of 5. I could see that happening in Nebraska today for hail. So we'll see what happens. But the risk of excessive rainfall, just 2 areas where we will have our most storm action for today that has a 5% risk of flash flooding occurring. Now, watches, warnings, and advisories. We have some high wind watches across South Dakota for all this energy moving in. We got wind advisories, high wind warnings across like New Mexico, red flag warnings because a system is ejecting to your north. This brings a lot of westerly, southwesterly flow over this area, and typically you don't get a whole lot of moisture from these storm systems. And we have heat advisories now in Texas. Once again, it might be even hotter today in certain areas of Texas compared to yesterday. Some areas could get well over 110 degrees. The eastern U.S. is pretty quiet this morning. We have some winter weather alerts across the higher elevations of Montana and Wyoming. Winter storm warnings actually also. But the southeast, taking a broad look at things today because I'll miss a couple areas if I just zoom into the areas that have a higher risk of severe weather. But we'll take it all the way to about 3 to 4 p.m. this afternoon. There could be some storm activity in northern Alabama, maybe middle Tennessee, but most of the activity will probably be in North Carolina and Virginia in the form of some strong to severe storms. But as we get into this evening, we could get some convection that's ongoing in Kentucky, also eastern Tennessee, even some storms in the upstate of South Carolina. But here's the most of our action right here in eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina, all the way up into Maryland. Then we get to the overnight hours. Could just have rounds of showers and storms throughout northern, eastern Kentucky, western Virginia, all the way into northeast Tennessee. This is 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning here. So we got some storms. Don't be surprised. You wake up to a rumble of thunder, some flashes of lightning in this area overnight tonight. And we're waking up tomorrow morning to a little bit of rain up here near Boone in western Virginia. A little bit of storm activity also in southeast North Carolina. But just to zoom into Virginia and North Carolina, and it shows other states also. Let's go to about lunchtime. Then we go to about 2 p.m. Storms begin to fire. Very humid, hot air mass for early to mid-May standards. Storms near Greensboro up to Roanoke, between Greensboro and Raleigh. These could pack a punch. Some hail, gusty winds. Cannot rule out an isolated tornado. Never can in a severe weather event, but not a high risk of that today. Some storms firing up near the Outer Banks. We got a lot of storm activity in southern VA, areas of North Carolina, some convection up here also in West Virginia. Then we take it to 6 p.m. and we just got to watch for some strong to severe storms. We look to Raleigh, to Greenville, over to Virginia Beach, Jacksonville, Wilmington, even some storms around the NC South Carolina line here. Watch out, like near Gaffney, Shelby. And then we get into 8 p.m. Storms are moving through Richmond, starting to get closer to Virginia Beach, Greenville. And I would just watch for this area right here. I wouldn't be surprised we upgrade to a slight risk in this area because of model guidance consistently showing this afternoon, this evening, rounds of storms moving through eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina. But then we start to get into, I do want to watch some storm development also this evening across northern South Carolina and the southern Piedmont, North Carolina. But we start to get into the overnight hours. There's those storms kind of moving through like Johnson City, western Virginia, Boone, Banner Hill, stuff like that. So just be careful if you live Richmond down to Fayetteville. If you're traveling up the I-95 corridor this afternoon, North Carolina, Virginia, you're probably going to encounter at least a risk of some strong to severe storms. The northeast surges of rain continue into New York City, Long Island, all the way up to Binghamton, all the way up to the Finger Lakes. And then, we start to get into this afternoon, late afternoon, evening, still getting showers. Going to get some storms possible all the way up into western Maryland. Some pop-up downpours are possible all the way up to Erie. Could get some downpour activity in Ohio. Taken into the overnight hours, scattered showers, light rain into southern New England, northern New York, maybe a cluster of heavy rain in the southern areas of PA. Then we take it to tomorrow morning and just some scattered rain showers, across southern New England, all the way up to the coastal areas of Maine. All in all, not a super active weather day, but it'll be raining and just dreary across areas of the Northeast for sure. South Central U.S., pretty quiet weather day. Breezy, hot, but that'll change as we get into later this weekend. We'll talk about that in early next week. But a quiet day. Most of the energy riding to your north. So, you're just not getting a whole lot of anything. But by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, we could begin to get some convection, some showers that begin to develop here in central Texas and maybe southeast Oklahoma. We'll see about that. But it'll be very hot. Listen, this is pretty hot for any time of the year. But, Texas, the middle of the country can have some wild weather. But here we are, getting into 110, 112 degrees here deep in Texas. But even central Texas, well into the hundreds. Austin will hit. Austin, Texas, for example. San Angelo, San Antonio will get over 100 degrees a day. The Dallas-Fort Worth area could also. Now, a lot of this is a dry heat. But I will look at the heat index. That's not what I want to see here. The heat index, I mean, it will still be pretty brutal. Like, even though we're getting just into the 90s in Eastern Texas here, heat indices will be into the hundreds. So a lot of this is a dry heat, but still, hot is hot, right? So conditions up in the north central U.S. We'll take a broad look at things first. The Great Lakes region, the upper Midwest should be pretty quiet. Could have some scattered showers, maybe a downpour or two, a scattered storm or two. Really, you can't rule it out here. Down here in Indiana, you see some action bubbling up down here. Wouldn't rule it out. But most of our action here is in the Dakotas and Nebraska. We got some vigorous storm development ongoing with a strengthening low pressure in response. We're getting a lot of lift, a lot of thunderstorm activity. So you see all that action out to your west. And we are going to zoom into this. Let's talk about Nebraska first. Starting off around midday today. Your time frame is up here if you're tuning in from Nebraska. We take it to about 4 p.m. Some storms possible in northern Nebraska. And then we get into 6 p.m. Listen, models are going to struggle with this, but I could see some supercell development down here and just some very intense thunderstorms in central to western Nebraska. You see just these splotches of dark red, even purple. Could have some very large hail with these. And then we get to 8 p.m. And listen, North Platte points north. All the smaller towns and communities here. If you live in this region of Nebraska, I know it doesn't show, unfortunately, many towns and cities in the state of Nebraska, but you see the little squiggly circle lines coming off this. This indicates intense, stronger updrafts, large hail, very large hail is possible. Could have a tornado threat, but these storms will be packing a punch in these areas. I really think a little bit more of a conditional threat in Nebraska, but the storms will be more intense compared to the Dakotas, in my opinion. But, you start to get to 10 p.m. If you live in the northern sections of Nebraska, there is going to be an intense line of storms that is likely going to move through. But more of a conditional threat down here near Kearney, North Platte, Grand Island, McCook. But there is a risk of significant sized hail down here. And even though this run doesn't show any storms, that doesn't necessarily mean that no storms is going to happen. Just remember that. But on this particular run, it doesn't really develop any storms south of this interstate corridor right here. One of these days, I'll know what every single interstate is, but ain't quite to that level yet. But it looks like just the northern half of Nebraska, especially this north central, and then the western areas of Nebraska, you're going to get a lot of intense storm activity. I mean, look at these; these are pretty intense. So we take it up to South Dakota, same thing, lunchtime. Then right after lunchtime, storms begin to develop. We already got a lot of heavy rain in these areas right now, but just a surge of storms between Rapid City and Pierre. Eventually, these will drift into Pierre later this evening. This is 7. This is 8 p.m. This is 9 p.m. If it would move. Come on. And we could end up getting some flash flooding in this area. This is 10 p.m. These storms don't have a great west to east progression to them, so could get a lot of heavy rain for a long period of time in these areas. But eventually, I would watch southern areas and southeastern areas of the state of Nebraska. The storms could be quite intense, starting to surge out of Nebraska into South Dakota. And then we start to get to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, Sioux Falls, Brookings, Aberdeen. It starts to knock on your doorstep. Just a lot of heavy rain in Pierre. It could be raining most of the afternoon, evening, and overnight hours in Pierre. But this eventually will get its spin on over South Dakota and then continue to move north and northeast. But up here in North Dakota also, starting off around lunchtime, this is 3 p.m. now, 4 p.m. Look at those storms forming around Bismarck. We start to get to 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Could just have scattered storm activity, especially in the central to west central portion of the state in the afternoon to evening hours. And even into the just late evening hours. This is 9 p.m., this is 10 p.m. Most of the storms just kind of trailing over the central portion of the state, but could get a lot of storm activity near Devil's Lake, Jamestown also, eventually into Fargo. But a lot of this action just kind of wanting to just chill over the central portion of the state. This is 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So just watch out for the central portion of the state. And the updraft Felicity swath, it really likes Nebraska the most. You can see these slashes of colors down here in Nebraska. This indicates more intense, potentially rotating updrafts. If we're going to get any tornadoes today, I'll venture to say it's going to be in South Dakota or either northern Nebraska. But we could have some intense storms. Any storm that can get isolated in this area today will have advantage of will have a chance to take advantage of all the atmospheric players out there in the atmosphere today, if you will. So a lot of signal here showing intense updrafts, and we're going to have some damaging wind gusts in this area too. So just be careful if you live in the northern sections of Nebraska, but even central sections of Nebraska too. I know it doesn't show like anything in this area right here, like nothing, but I'm telling you, if you live in this area too, there is a risk of significant sized hail for a reason, and a severe weather threat for a reason. So take it serious. Model guidance isn't always going to nail everything down. But moving out for the rest of the western U.S., just a lot of rain across Montana, Wyoming, areas of Idaho, even down to Utah and western Colorado. Higher elevation, this will be snow. Got to get way up there. Could get some storms this afternoon, this evening, also in eastern Wyoming. So if you live in eastern Wyoming, some storms are possible before the bulk of this energy moves into the Nebraska and the Dakotas. But just a lot of energy associated with this low, cooler air in place. All in all, not a very active weather day, just that higher elevation snow. Temperatures today, a little pocket of cool air because of this rain across southern tier of New York and northern PA, so just 60s, upper 50s. But you get away from the cloud cover, it's a nice day. For example, you get up into Maine, 70s and 80s. Get into the mid-Atlantic, 70s, southeast, 70s, 80s, low 90s. Very humid air, though. And just warm across the Midwest, 80s. And but you can tell where there is a cold front and there is a storm system moving in, because, I mean, it's you can tell on the screen where there's just basically cooler air. There's a pretty sharp temperature gradient across the plains and across the Rockies. It's still nice and warm across the Southwest, but the middle of the Rockies, northern Rockies, Pacific Northwest is cooler, but I do think you guys will begin to warm up over the coming days. Very hot, and especially Kansas points south. So, folks, moving ahead, enhanced risk of severe weather for tomorrow. It starts off tomorrow morning through Friday morning. Okay, so we have a level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather for a good chunk of Wisconsin. So I'll zoom into Wisconsin here. This includes Milwaukee, Madison, Eau Claire, La Crosse, Green Bay, and goes all the way down to Chicago, Illinois, goes down to South Bend, includes Kalamazoo, Lansing, and stops just north of Fort Wayne. But I mean, Rockford, you're technically in that slight risk. There is a slight risk that includes a good chunk of the UP of Michigan, including Marquette. Detroit, you're in the slight risk down the lower Michigan. Toledo, Dayton, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, down to Louisville, Evansville, Bloomington, down into just about the boot of Missouri, Mount Vernon, Bloomington, Illinois, Effingham, Rockford, almost to Dubuque, Rochester, all the way back over to Minneapolis. A level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather in the yellow. And then a marginal risk extends all the way into the Arklatex, southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, and it does extend into portions of North Carolina and Virginia. And listen, this little area right here, I could see a slight risk getting issued. I'm going to talk about why here in a second, but I want you to, for my folks in North Carolina and Virginia, I know I got probably a good bit of viewers from this area. There's a reason this weird little extension of the marginal risk happens here, but this is obviously where the epicenter of the worst severe weather is going to be for portions of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Now, what about the tornado outlook? Right now, just a very large 5% risk, which includes basically all of the enhanced risk area, and it includes the slight risk area. So it includes the entire state of Wisconsin just about. You see it on your screen. Brown area, 5% risk of a tornado. Green area is a 2% risk of a tornado. And then the wind threat with this, this is one of the things driving the enhanced risk area. The tornado threat is not as of now, but in the entire enhanced risk area, there is a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. Includes Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Eau Claire, La Crosse, down in Kalamazoo, South Bend, Lansing, so Grand Rapids. And then in the yellow, that is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the hail threat, in the red area, that is a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch. The yellow area is a 15% risk of that. And then the black outline area, which covers all the red area and portions of the yellow area, that is a 10% risk of significant sized hail of 2 inch in diameter or larger. So this will have a big time hail threat with it for tomorrow's severe weather threat. Now, how does this evolve? So this is starting off tomorrow morning. This is just the latest long-range HRRR model that we have. We already have a line of storms moving across southwestern areas of Minnesota, and these could already be hitting severe limits. So this is tomorrow morning. Okay, so we take it to about lunchtime. It's about lunchtime, early afternoon tomorrow. We got storms trying to get into Duluth. More strong, the severe storms beginning to enter southwest Minnesota. But up to this point, not a whole lot going on in Illinois, Wisconsin, the UP. But then we take it to about, look at this. Like, this is about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, about mid to late afternoon. Look how those storms rapidly explode here in portions of Wisconsin. You see these storms here? These will be intense, guys. Wind-driven large hail. And I mean, even up here, like north of Minneapolis and central Minnesota, guys, these storms will be intense. Looks like one sweeping line. So you get into later in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock. And trust me, in our next video, we will zoom into each individual state. We always do with these severe weather events. This is getting late afternoon, like 6, 7, 8 o'clock. The timing is still going to be a little iffy. And just look at this tail-whipping line of storms moving through Wisconsin. This is intense. We got to watch for any individual supercells in the southern end into Illinois that could form too. I know it doesn't show hardly anything going on in Illinois, but we could very well get storm development. And these storms, I'm telling you, if you live in the northern half of Wisconsin, and I mean even down to Milwaukee, Green Bay, these storms could be intense. Damaging winds, very large hail, the biggest threat, but there's going to be embedded tornadoes with this too. And then look how this line of storms later tomorrow evening eventually gets to the UP of Michigan, crosses over Lake Michigan, moves into the western lower half of Michigan. And and I know you're thinking Illinois, Indiana, I don't see anything happen in this area, but I'm telling you, it could. And we get late into the night, until late tomorrow evening, getting closer to midnight tomorrow, we got some intense storms moving across lower Michigan and the UP of Michigan. And then these begin to move into Canada. So I know that doesn't help you a whole lot, but just the general look at this is a sweeping line, a lot of forcing, but a sweeping, fast-moving line of intense thunderstorms that could develop right on top of Minneapolis tomorrow afternoon and then sweep northeastward. Now, the southern mode of this, remember, we do have a marginal risk that gets all the way down to the Arklatex. The southern mode of this, a little bit more of a conditional threat, lacking a little bit of forcing in the atmosphere, a bit of a cap also. So we take it to about the afternoon hours, and we do have some thunderstorm development into Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, but this is getting into late tomorrow afternoon, but it doesn't look super intense. I mean, I would say late afternoon, we got 1 or 2 stronger sails into Arkansas, the Butte, Missouri. But overall, it doesn't look too bad. Now, that could change dramatically in coming runs throughout the day into tomorrow morning. But it does show some storms trying to develop late tomorrow evening, southeast Mizzou, northern Arkansas. And then as we're getting into the overnight hours, it does show some thunderstorm development. Man, this is moving slow. Come on, what is your deal this morning? Oh, well, I'm sitting here yapping my jaw off, and this is as far out as the model run goes. So it only goes out to about midnight tomorrow night. So we can't really see any further than this. But I do want to mention, starting off tomorrow, we're probably going to have some storms already in North Carolina. But I want to watch this area of Virginia. I mean, maybe even like extreme eastern West Virginia, but getting into the foothills, the sort of the central areas of Virginia, down to northeast North Carolina, a little bit of a northwest flow event. These storms into Virginia and northern and northeast North Carolina, listen, they could be intense. I think we'll get a slight risk issued in this area of Virginia and northeast North Carolina more. So, if you're tuning in and you weren't expecting to hear much from this area for tomorrow, I really think we'll have a slight risk issue. Right now, just a marginal risk, but we got some intense thunderstorms showing up on the latest run. And there is just a steady northwesterly flow through this area. Intense-looking storms, guys. I mean, maybe even a low-end tornado threat, but damaging winds, some large hail. But we just got a solid flow out the northwest moving through this area tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. So I think we're going to get some intense storms. If you live in central, eastern Virginia, northeast North Carolina, some intense storms tomorrow. So just want to throw you guys a bone there, too. Like I said, right now, just a marginal risk in this area. But I could easily see a slight risk being issued in this area also. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Just taking my shot there. But moving forward, guys, this is for Friday. I want to get my days mixed up. There's so much going on. There is a slight risk, a level 2 out of 5. No enhanced risk yet. This includes a very large area from Little Rock all the way up to Cincinnati, all the way up to Indianapolis, all the way up to St. Louis, all the way down to Memphis, Nashville, goes all the way into eastern Kentucky. So hopefully you can see this pretty well. Includes sections of Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, northern Mississippi, the southern half of Indiana and Illinois, all the way into the southwestern sections of Ohio. Very small section of extreme western West Virginia. Marginal risk extends all the way into central portions of Texas, all the way up into areas of the Ohio Valley. So right now, just a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And all we know at this point is that, hey, there's a 15% risk of any severe weather. I think damaging winds will drive an enhanced risk upgrade. We got to figure out where these clusters of storms are going to be. So speaking on Friday and Saturday a little bit more, I'm going to stop it right here. And this is right over the severe weather risk area. This is 21Z Friday, not tomorrow. I almost said tomorrow. 21Z Friday. This is, just think of that, and I know it's Zulu time, think of that as Friday afternoon. So this is flow at 18,000 feet up in the air. It doesn't always tell the story, but there's a lot of flow in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. You know, you got a steady 60 to 75, 80 knots of mid-level flow, basically out the west going to the east. So a lot of push in the atmosphere in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. So we got the kinematics here, at least in the mid-levels. They're getting all the way into North Carolina, all the way into northern sections of the deep south. So a lot of flow over this area, okay? Now, we match that up with thermodynamics, which are things like dew points, lapse rates, CAPE levels, things like that. Same time frame, Friday afternoon, the latest Euro showing just a ton of surface moisture. Dew points in the 60s and 70s. If you're like, Mitch, what is dew points? It's the true measurement of how humid it is outside. So if you walk outside, it's like, man, it is humid. It's very humid. Your dew points are probably in the 60s and 70s. And once you get deeper into summer, they stay in the 70s in the south until we get deep into like October pretty much. But if you notice, a lot of people, might say, hey man, why isn't there a higher severe weather threat up in the northern Illinois, northern Indiana for Friday? There's tons of flow over this area. Well, if you look at dew points, there is some sort of boundary here, a warm front, which is separating a lot of dry air, dew points in the 30s and 40s, with very moist air, dew points in the 60s and 70s. So you're not going to get severe weather up here because it's too dry. These storms like moist air. So very moist environment in the afternoon Friday, and I'm just going to keep it in the afternoon. It'll be the same case for Friday evening, also Friday night. A lot of humid air in the Carolinas too. You're thinking, well, we should have a big severe weather threat too. I'm going to talk about why we might not even get storms Friday in the Carolinas. But there's explosive storm energy also. This is CAPE levels in the mixed layer. It's going to have weird pockets here and there because it's picking up on storms developing. And this is just the operational run of the Euro. But you got, just look at this in the splotches of whitish gray and the orange and the reds. This is a lot of storm energy in the atmosphere. Okay. Now I know you're looking in South Carolina like, dude, that is like 4,000 joules per kilogram. We should get some massive storms in South Carolina. I would say not so fast, because if you look in the low levels of the atmosphere, and we're going to take it to that, I don't know why I didn't have it already there. If we take it to that same time period that I just showed you, the CAPE levels, dew points, in the mid-level flow, if you look at the low-level flow, which is what this is, 850 millibars, this is about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air. You look at this is about 18,000 feet up in the air. So you look at the lower levels, and it's very scattered about. Like we got this impulse of a low-level flow at about 40 knots, a little bit down here in Alabama, a little bit here across Tennessee and Kentucky. This is a great way to look at where our actual surface feature will be, where our storms will actually be. And if you notice, there's not a lot of low-level flow over the Carolinas, so you might not have a lot of push in the low levels to get storms going into the Carolinas. Now, things looked a little bit different a couple days ago. I was thinking maybe the Carolinas and Virginia will have a higher severe weather threat for Friday. And we could uptrend. It's hard to figure out these low-level features. The grand scheme of things in the upper levels of the atmosphere is easier to figure out, in my opinion. But if you compare this to, say, what the Euro is saying with these storms, it makes sense, because if we take it to that 21Z time frame, clusters of storms here, clusters of storms here, and sure enough, this is where a lot of our low-level flow is. Even a little bit of storm action here, and that is close to where that low-level flow is. There's not a lot going on here in the Carolinas, and if we extend this a little bit further, say, into like Friday late evening, we have what looks like a nasty line of storms sweeping across here in the Mid-South, Arkansas, and this eventually could kind of sweep southward down into the Deep South and things like that. So that's an update on Friday. Now, what I can tell you is I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Saturday looks about the same. You know, we kind of have a lot of upper level flow rumbling across a large area. So a lot of upper level flow. Your dew points stay about the same. Very moist air mass. Now, I will say that your better moisture is shunted to the south a lot more as a cold front sort of sags southward. So, you know, it's a little bit more crisp up here in areas of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-South. So your Cape levels obviously push southward in response. Man, let's get this in motion. Come on. So this is for Saturday afternoon. So a lot of your storm energy and response pushes to the south. So any kind of severe weather threat for Saturday will be further south compared to Friday. So hope that makes sense here. Let's look at our time. I don't want to make sure. Okay, I think we're okay for now. But listen, the newest thing that we're waking up to for this morning is we now have a 15% risk area up for Sunday of this coming weekend and Monday of next week. And I think we're going to have more severe weather threats even past Monday of next week. So this is for Sunday. We now have, it's small if you look at the grand scheme of things, but we have a 15% risk area up. This includes Oklahoma City, almost all the way to Wichita, all the way down to Wichita Falls, and Texas Woodard included. 15% risk of severe weather. And listen, this is going to be, I think, your traditional classic May setup for the southern plains, in my opinion. We still got things to iron out, obviously. Now, if we look at Monday, it's a little bit larger, stretches across a little bit, well, it goes a little bit further north, all the way up to almost to the Kansas, Nebraska line, and goes all the way down to the Red River area. Wichita, Manhattan, Oklahoma City once again included in this. There's a lot of storm chasers that are you know, somewhat excited about this. Of course, it's not exciting for people who have storm anxiety across this area of the country, but this just looks like a classic severe weather threat for May standards in this area. And this is definitely a bit of a concerning look, and this is why you got this is the mid-level flow at 18,000 feet up in the air. And this is Saturday. Here comes another dip in the jet coming in. It's going to bring a large area of southwesterly flow, and this is going to eject across the plains. So by the time we get into, say, Sunday, flow is already beginning to enter this area. Now, this is just an operational run. So the areas in purple could be positioned a little bit further east. But if I put my cursor over this, you know, we got flow beginning to enter this area of the country. Now, Sunday, I think Monday could be a bigger threat. We get into Monday, more of a widespread ejection of this trough. We got flow over 60 knots, but I mean, it could be higher, it could be lower. Just when I put my cursor over this, you see this purple area, just thinking this is wind energy, kinetic energy to support severe weather. There's probably going to be some sort of dry line boundary set up separating very moist and dry air. And sure enough, if you look at this is Sunday afternoon, deep Gulf moisture getting thrown up into the plains. This is being overlapped by what I just showed you, the kinetic wind energy. And then we get into Monday, and you get your classic looking dry line setup. Very dry air in western areas of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Very moist air. Okay, dew points in the 60s and 70s. It's a big time separation. This looks like your classic dry line type setup. So I think Monday could be a really big day. I think it could be bigger than Sunday. But we'll just keep it at that for now. We got to watch for surface features, but certainly as we get into Sunday and Monday over the next several days, it looks like bigger severe weather events could happen, and I think it could last into next week too. That's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.